All right, today I want to talk to you about a subject that very few people seem to be talking about, but I think it's very important for our nation that we address it. And that is this right here. Why is it that rural men aren't going to church anymore? Why is it that the modern American church just isn't able to reach rural men like it was able to do maybe in centuries past? And I think that's an important subject that really attention needs to be drawn to it. Now, it seems like the modern church and the modern church movement has done a phenomenal job at reaching the suburban dad. It has been able to reach the inner city even, but the very backbone of this nation, just the rural guy that's working 12-hour shifts, the blue collar man, as a whole, Christianity and the American church has failed to reach that person. And I want to just give you a few reasons why I think that is, just based on my own experience of having grown up in the South, having grown up with blue collar people. I grew up on a farm, and pretty much that's my lifestyle to a large degree. These are the people that I see as my family. These are the people I see as my people. And why is it that, as a whole, churches have struggled to reach these people? Here's the first thing. The very first reason I think is that pastors for this time period just aren't nearly as relatable to blue collar rural American males as they maybe were in days past. Now, that's kind of a broad brush to paint with, and I know there are many people that this does not apply to, but let's think about it for a moment. I mean, today's seminary graduates with their degrees and education and their memories of college are completely unrelatable to the guy that's been working 12-hour shifts, the guy that comes home with his back all sore and he's been out freezing and everything and just absolutely struggling to get through a shift. And that person that we're sending out to try to reach that guy is somebody that has never really worked a shift like that. That for fun, this person goes to a coffee shop and hangs out with somebody that has the same background he does, and they'll debate Greek and they'll debate Calvinism and Reformed theology, and that's kind of where their world is, and it is so foreign to anything that that blue collar rural American is ever even aware of, that these are like two separate worlds. And as a large degree, our culture has just absolutely demonized men. And as a whole, our culture has looked at rural American males and seen them as bad. And the church that ought to be a voice for those who are oppressed, the church who ought to be a voice for those that are struggling. A lot of times, the church is very quietly kind of mocking these people as well. I've been out with pastors, and they've seen people that are what I would call my people, and they may not say anything out loud, but you can just tell that's not the people that they ally with. That's not the people that they see as worthy of them. And as men feel that, and as a whole, the American church has walked away from rural men. And one of the reasons right here is there's just a divide. The reason men don't go to church like they used to, when I say men, rural men, it is there is a terrific, huge divide between the pulpit and the pew. Here's the second thing. The second thing is that grace is hard. Grace is especially hard for farmers. It's especially hard for rural men, guys that were taught from the very beginning that you've got to pull your weight, that there are consequences for your actions, and you've got to be able to fix what is broken. And that's where the gospel message itself really just falls directly in the face of everything a rural guy has brought up being told. Here you are, and you've been told to fix it your whole life. And now here's a preacher up there saying, you know what, you are broken to a point that you can't be fixed on your own. There is nothing you can do to save yourself. There's nothing you can do to fix what is broken. And the only way you can get help is if you call on somebody else to save you, if you beg someone else to be your savior. And for a lot of men, and I hate to say it, but it is pride that stands in the way. Pride of, I don't want to submit myself and humble myself to the point, and I don't even want to recognize the fact that there is something that is so broke that I can't fix it. And so that's another reason why men don't go to church, rural men, like they should, is that pride stands in the way. I don't want to admit the fact that I need a savior, and I certainly don't want to admit the fact that there's nothing I can do to fix myself. And grace is hard for a guy to understand. I mean, their whole life, a lot of the men I talk to, they have a great respect for God, but also they have a great fear for God because they know their sin, they know their past, they know all the mistakes they've made in their life, and they kind of look back on themselves and they're like, yeah, I have a wealth of payment that I need to make to heaven, and I'm probably going to spend quite a bit of time away from Him, and there's really no hope for myself. And that's sad that grace is such a foreign thought to so many people. Now, here's the third thing: the way we preach isn't helping. Why is it that rural men just aren't coming to church? Well, I think the answer to that can be very clearly realized by going to church two times. Go to church on Mother's Day and listen to the sermon, recognize everything that goes on in that place, and then come back a month later on Father's Day and listen to the sermon there. Now, on Mother's Day, your sermon's going to be very easy. It's going to be moms are great. We've all got the world's greatest mothers. We love moms. Moms are the bedrock of a nation. They are the hand that really is raising the next generation, and mothers can do no wrong. You come back to church in June. Come back on Father's Day and listen to that message. It's not going to be equivalent. Dads are great. We love dads. They're wonderful. We need dads. No, in fact, it is going to be a 180. The Mother's Day message was this, mothers can do no wrong. The Father's Day message is every problem in our nation right now is the result of a dad not being in his place, is the result of a father not doing as he should. Every issue that's affecting us as a country is because dads. Men, you need to step up. You need to take charge of your family. And it's almost like the pastor has an axe to grind with men. And, men recognize whenever they're not appreciated. And the truth is, the men that I know, and in fact, most rural men would give you the shirt off their back. They would risk their life for their children. They would absolutely go out of their way to help somebody in need. And I've seen it. I mean, they come home and their bodies are tired and they are wore out from having made sacrifices for their families. And yet, whenever they get to church, a pastor, oftentimes a pastor who doesn't really even work a very hard job himself, is quick to condemn men who are the absolute epitome of what Christian manhood is. And there's a big disconnect right there. And as a result, we're running men away with our preaching. We're running men away by acting like every problem in the world is the result of a man when that's simply not the case. Here's another reason why men, rural men, aren't coming to church. Why, while the church has done really well at reaching the suburban dads, we have done a horrible job at reaching the rural man. And one of the reasons is because churches have become safe spaces. Rural men don't really want therapy clinics. You go to the average small group, and it is let's sit around in a big circle and let's be vulnerable with each other. Let's share different things that we've got going on in our life. Let's weep together and let's not be afraid to hold hands and to pray together. And that might sound wonderful, and I might even take some heat in the comments here for saying this, but a lot of rural men, they're not needing a therapy session. They're not needing to be vulnerable. They're needing to be trained. They're needing someone who's going to challenge them. They're not looking at crying next to the guy that they've never met before. What they're looking at is just getting honest with the God of heaven and somebody giving them a roadmap on how can I get better? How can I be the better husband that I need to be? How can you help me take this Bible and make sense of it? And as our churches have gone in the way of trying to be therapy places, as our churches have gone in the way of trying to be more sensitive and all of this stuff, we're really running men away. I know that this last decade or so, it has been very big on circles, not rows. Circles. Let's all get in a big circle and let's listen to everybody. But I think that circles, not rows mentality is running away a lot of rural men. Rural men want to sit there. They want to sit quietly. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want to speak. They want to take in what's being said. They want to go home and apply that to their life. And as a church, as we try so often to move in that direction of becoming therapy sessions, we're doing so at the detriment of reaching rural men. Here's another thing. Rural men need a job. All men need a job. They don't need a seat. They need a job. Now, in the typical church, what it means to have a job is to sing. What it means to have a job or to serve is to get up and play the guitar or to pray, maybe to teach a Sunday school lesson. But rural men, a lot of the rural men that I know, they're not comfortable in front of a microphone. They're not comfortable up on stage. They don't want the limelight, but they want to serve. Men are doers by nature, and countrymen especially are builders. They're protectors. They're providers. They like fixing things. They solve problems, and they carry their own weight. If we don't find a place to allow rural men to serve in their own capacity that they're comfortable with and to do mighty with the things that they do, they're going to leave. Men who have no job leave. Men who have no purpose leave. And the American modern church has looked at rural men, and we love taking their money, but we don't really like giving them a place to serve. And if we don't find a place for rural men to serve, they're going to go somewhere else. Give them nothing and they'll drift. And so rural men, they're just not sticking around in Americans' modern churches because they don't have a job to do. And then here's the last thing. Rural men don't go to churches where there's drama. One thing I've noticed about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or Atlanta or anything else, they're not being watched by rural men. I'll tell you that. Rural men are not interested in drama. Rural men don't like it. They want to stay far away from it, and they're not going to try to add to the fire with this stuff right here. They want to go somewhere where there is peace. They want to go somewhere where there is joy. They want to go somewhere where they can relax and just be happy to be in the presence of God. If our churches are filled with whispering, our churches are filled with phone calls and cliques and committees and factions, you're not going to have any rural men there very long. In fact, they're going to run from that because they want peace, they want purpose, they want their Sunday to matter. These are people that are working just about every day of their life. And when they do get a time off and they're going to go to the house of God, let's make sure that they go to the house of God and don't get more drama, but they've got peace there. Now, this isn't anger. These are just my observations. These thoughts don't come from bitterness. They come from watching the men who have kept this country alive for generations slowly walk away from churches that ought to be fighting to keep them. If we want rural men back, we don't need gimmicks. We don't need smoke machines or cooler coffee stations. We need honesty, strength, purpose, challenges, and they need truth. Countrymen aren't avoiding God. They're just waiting for someone to speak their language. And that's the thought today on why rural men don't go to church. Now, if you like this video, I'm not going to say, hey, click the like button and subscribe and all that stuff. But what I will say is that if you would do that, that would sure mean a lot to us. We're going to put out more content like this as often as we can. But this is why rural men don't go to church.